Good afternoon. You are watching Behind the Flame here in Kalispell, Montana, in our lovely facility at Falkor Defense. And those of you that were sticking around and watching Colby's podcast from earlier this morning, I told you to stick around because we do have a special guest this afternoon. And before we get to there, we must say a thank you to our sponsors. Kinsey's Optics, do yourselves a favor, go on their website. What I like to say, they are like the one-stop shop of getting like special optics, scopes, reflex sights, all that special amenities for your ninja gun for your next outing. And Mark Bell Slingshot. They always have really fine products for those that are the avid go-getter in the gym, keeping yourself nice and healthy and keeping you challenged. And Bang Energy. John's had like 5 of them today. We cannot keep him contained. He's almost like the Tasmanian devil. Even Colby back behind me, he's kind of freaking out. And with that being said, 221B Tactical. Make sure you get onto their website, check out their kit. They are a huge supporter of law enforcement, military professionals, fire, EMT, any first responders. They have a really good kit. Keep everybody on the up and up and have what they need for the next outing. And Taurus, go on to their website. They've been around for a while. They've made really good pistols and revolvers, and there's a reason for it. They're a really fine product. And if you haven't fired one, I highly suggest you do. And with that being said, we have a special guest here. His name is Weston Harris. He is I would say a more than expert in the field craft of hearing protection. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. John Bartolo.
I love these OJ gloves from 221B. They fit, so I'm not going to get acquitted.
You're guilty.
OJ gloves.
Yeah.
So we're having an awesome time today. There's so much chat and so much roundtable. We had Colby on earlier. It's been an overwhelming day.
We can't seem to get rid of him, by the way. He's still sticking around.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go watch a machine, but yeah. I'm going to add another sponsor to the list. This is a guy I've worked for in the past and consulted and moonlighted for. He's awesome to work with. He's got, his head wrapped around so many different things. We're going to pick his brain for the next, 45 minutes or so on kind of his thoughts on not just the industry, but kind of one side of it we don't talk a lot about. I mean, we always go to the range or shoot and train or hunt, and we put on our eyes and we put on our ears, right? So we're going to get into some of that and what kind of goes into that and what's involved in that technology and why it's so important, because I think people need to know. But we're also going to pick his brain on some of his thoughts on the business and some cool hunts he's been on through the years, because he's got quite the Rolodex too. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to have him, and I'm grateful to have him in the building, and I want his opinions on everything. Weston Harris.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Glad to be up here.
Right on.
Good to head up to Kalispell for
no stranger.
a couple days.
No stranger to Montana.
No stranger. I love Montana.
Yeah, so tell this is a great way to get your story out there. Tell kind of everybody listening, and I know you'll be sharing this on the interwebs, how you got to where you are and how you got, Sport Airs to Axle and where that transition comes in and how it all played out.
I don't have enough time to tell you how.
Give them.
Go for it.
The 60-second version of it is, I've been in the hearing industry for 23 years. Had a main chain of probably 60 hearing clinics through the western states and the southern states. Over the years, followed my dad into the hearing aid business. He'd been knocking doors, doing door-to-door forever, then opened a chain of his own clinics and got into it. And I just kept seeing, I have kind of this two-part legacy to my own personal story. One, I grew up with a dad who was heavy into helping people hear better. I also grew up with a dad who was crazy, and, our summer vacation every year was going out to Nevada 2 or 3 times and just blowing crap up, and we'd stop by and grab a box of TNT in Ely, Nevada, and take it out into the desert and blow boulders off the mountains and be shooting the first 50 calibers coming out, or full auto machine guns, or, instead of the classic Disneyland, family vacation, we were going out to Nevada, blowing up Nevada just north of Vegas, so between shooting and hunting and growing up that way, and also in the hearing industry, and I remember the first Benelli shotguns coming out, and we were riding these old Rocons that were two-wheeler, big tire tote goats. Most people don't remember what those are, but I grew up when I was 10, and I'd be riding those around the desert with a 45 1911 on my hip and a Benelli shotgun strewn across my back, and we'd be going out there blowing up anything we could find, And the other side of it was the hearing side. So I naturally kind of followed my dad into that arena and did hearing clinics for a while, and realized that really my passion was more back in the outdoors and shooting and hunting and doing all the stuff that I'd grown up in. And so had to kind of figure out my way to innovate the hearing aid industry over to what I wanted the hearing aid industry to look like from my own personal passion and vision and all of that. So I spent quite a long time crossing from the traditional clinic over to a model where we could get this technology out to the guys who needed it the most, and that's this whole arena. So we did that over 23 years. I started Sport Ear back in 2000, and really thought that brand reached far and universal enough. And as we got going forward down the road, realized that it really nailed it for the hunter and competitive shooter, but for the more professional shooter and industrial, auto racing, all the different stuff that guys, especially here in America, get into, guys and gals get into here in America, just this crazy loud environments that we get into, that we really needed to kind of shift that brand forward to a more universal brand. And so we keep the Sport Ear product there as a product line for hunters, shooters specifically, and then Axel really has a lot more broad, universal range of highly specialized products for the ear, whether it's to help you hear better or hear while you're protecting your hearing, getting audio, just kind of all the best features and technology for the ear. And that's been a lot neater, more rewarding space to play in, and we've been able to get out and help a ton more people on that direct to people model over the traditional clinic model. And we've had a lot more fun in the process.
Now, I'll be straight with you. We all don't think of hearing protection as the most glamorous line of work. It's not sexy, right? But you're kind of making it sexy in many ways.
Until Axel.
Until Axel.
Right? It's not sexy until Axel came along.
We were talking about this a little earlier. We had Andy Stump in here. And I know, Aaron, you've been overseas. Do you take for granted do people just take for granted their hearing, right? I mean, I did. Coming up on ranges, we just, you slap some phones on, right, and you just go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing I told you, my upbringing, how I came about and did stuff. And, I connect with a lot of people. I mean, I've done a ton of concerts, back in the 80s, rock concerts and motorcycles and dirt bikes and street bikes and guns and shooting. And, I mean, all the stuff that just kills your hearing, right? And I go through and I'm talking to my wife about 4 or 5 years ago, in my early 40s, and I'm saying, you know what, I can't believe I'm in this industry and this is what I do, and here I am in my early 40s starting to miss what people are saying, right? Mm. And my wife says to me, she says, well, would you change anything about your life that caused that hearing loss?
It's a good question.
Hell no.
No,
I wouldn't.
Maybe put hearing protection on a little sooner.
Exactly.
Maybe that's about it.
Maybe, right? But the things that we're doing right now, like, we didn't have that. Like, literally 2018 is the first time in my professional career, which I'm 23 years into, right? This is the first time that anybody knows me where I'm living right now in 2018 in this very moment. Because for the last 20 years, I've been living 10, 15 years down the road in my mind of when the world could catch up to do the things that I was wanting to do in technology and innovation.
It's crazy.
Right? So nothing I could do to change back when I was, and what was out there then wasn't sexy, it wasn't cool, it wasn't, it's kind of dumb, and nobody really thought about hearing protection.
And it was definitely not sexy then. I mean, when you were overseas, Aaron, your hearing protection, what was it like? And that was, 10 years ago?
My last outing, I had Peltors. I was fortunate. But the two previous, it was like slim to none, to be honest with you. Because you can't hear when you're doing a patrol if you have foams in. You just can't hear. You have to hear. Yeah. And so the lack of protection, the quality protection that's not there, you just have to suck it up and drive on. So yeah. And that's the reason why the military started to stop doing the whole hearing loss deal with the VA. So there's a little backstory to that, but yeah. I mean, from my first deployment on, it wasn't until like I said, my last one where I actually had peltors, and which saved my hearing protection. I got blown up, so if it wasn't for those, I wouldn't be able to hear. So
Yeah. And Peltor's done a nice job. They've been a good brand, done a nice job over the years, and anything that you can do to get anything in there and take care of it. And that's the other thing that that we're really starting to do a lot more to educate people on right now, right? Like, it's not just hearing protection. Like, Axle really is an all for hearing company, right? What does that mean? Well, basically, you look at what your ears can use, and it comes down to three things. Either you have normal hearing and you want to protect it, but you also want to have the edge of being able to keep hearing really good, or even better than normal hearing, like a little bit of bionic hearing, right, for best performance. You want to be able to hear at optimal levels and protect your hearing and enjoy your hearing. And those are kind of the three areas. And enjoy your hearing can come either from hearing communication or hearing sounds of life or hearing your audio or any of that stuff. And so really what we do with Axle is put it together in a way that takes care of all the applications for your ears and your hearing, not just hearing protection. But that's a major part of it.
It's super interesting to me, and we'll get to the business side of everything, but no matter how safe you are, we have everyone in here talks about safety on the range, being safe, everyone wants to be safe. No matter how safe you are, you still run that risk of ears and eyes and going through that ear deterioration. So every time, and you get older now, I'm 37, YouTube public and podcast listeners, I've slowly seen it kind of come down a little bit, and it was more born out of years of being on the range. I wasn't in firefights like Aaron, but more born out of, shouldering a rifle, and I used to wear headphones. So what you do when you shoulder the rifle, you took your headphones and you put them a little behind you.
yeah,
So my right ear, I'm not deaf, but I've said to you, even Weston, over the years, like, I'm starting to see where I'm missing a word or two, or it's a little spotty at times, and it's not good. So to everybody out there, don't take it for granted. Hearing protection. Don't just get foamies. Now, what do you suggest to people going on the range? Like, where do you start on the spectrum of foams? And I've never asked you this. How do you place are foams like the I'm gonna pull out as opposed to the condom being the customs?
Yeah, foams are what you use when you get nothing else available.
So you would compare it to that on the spectrum,
right? You can relate that to your other analogy however you want to. But
So how do you cut the spectrum? So you have foams, you have
so you go
puff.
from foams up to earplugs that have highly advanced filters inside of them to screen out certain noises and allow certain noises to come through. Then you go up to head muffs, electronic head muffs. Then you start going up into lanyard-based products that give you hearing enhancement and protection with Bluetooth audio. Then you go up to standalone, individual, universal, or custom fit in the ear or behind the ear that gives you hearing enhancement and protection in a higher quality digital sound quality, where you can program it for somebody's normal hearing or somebody's hearing loss. And I mean, they have full-blown, state-of-the-art hearing aid capacity, but they're a lot cooler than hearing aids. They got a lot more technology to them than traditional hearing aids do. But still, people don't realize a lot of what we fit in Axle and the Sport Ear line is, half of what we're fitting out there is for people who they don't want to go down to a hearing clinic and buy a traditional hearing aid. They want to buy something that really matches their lifestyle.
Sexy.
Yeah, like their activities, right? Like, why in the world do I want to go down there and get a hearing aid that makes me feel old or not fully up to speed when I'm still out there, I'm totally active, I'm totally engaged, I want to extend this is a big deal. Like, so many guys I run into, they're like, I want to extend my career, I want to extend my hunting, I want to extend my shooting life, another 15, 20 years, right?
Yeah.
They got to have their hearing to do that. And we extend people's life, their real life, not their retirement phasing away life, but their real life. Like, we extend that another 20, 30 years for guys all the time.
So you touched on it earlier. You were talking about blowing stuff up and growing up, unconventional vacations. But you're a guy, and this is what everybody really should respect. You actually get out there, you hunt, and you participate, and you're out there in the field, and you're field testing this stuff yourself. You're using it. You're running your ears. What are some of the hunts you've been on through the years, and do you use those as a fielding ground for testing?
Yeah, I mean, as a fielding ground for testing, I'd say I just use them because I freaking love the product. I love having the advantage when I'm out there doing stuff. So testing, I mean, we can go through and do the testing and all the labs and the clinical side of what we do and get the tests out just the way that we need to. But I wear it on everything that I do. I mean, candidly, maybe I shouldn't share this on here, but some of my best testing for this when I first started out was, racing across the middle of the night from midnight till 4 a.m, shooting the daylights out of jackrabbits with a spotlight from the back of the truck, and it was ripping our ears apart. Man, it was killing our ears. We'd be shooting hundreds of rounds every night in hours, or we'd be out competitive shooting or whatever it is that we're doing where it's a lot of shooting, I remember when I first started Sporter, I went up with a couple of shooting teams and some teams from the industry, and we got up into Canada. There were about 12 guys, and I think we nailed like 1,500 geese in 2.5 days.
How dare you?
I know, right? So, pretty sad, but it was a blast. Right, but the first day, everybody came out and said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm crossing, the best hearing technology out there over to the outdoor sportsman. They said, well, what does it cost? We said, well, this is what it costs at the time, which was expensive, but it was a fraction of what traditional hearing aids cost just because of the direct-to-consumer model that we were doing. And all those guys came out and said, hey, no way, that's crazy, you're crazy. And so we went around the fields in Canada that day. I said, that's fine. I said, let's just talk at the end of day one. Let's talk. They were out there. They had strings of toilet paper hanging down their side, out of their ears. They were yelling at each other. They couldn't hear what was going on, just like a war zone out there shooting all those geese and everything going on. And they had a miserable time because their ears were getting ripped apart. And at the end of the day, when we all sat back for dinner that night, every single one of them ordered a pair.
So educate the folks a little bit. Why is, and I know even Peltor in its day was an expensive product for an earmuff. Why is hearing protection, quality protection so expensive? What's the tech and whatnot that goes into it so folks understand why you might want to pay a good chunk of money? Because to me, even $100 or above for the average consumer is, pricey. A lot of people, they buy the gun, they buy the ammo, they buy the binary explosive, whatever it is. And most people, I don't know Aaron's thoughts, like they'll go out, they'll buy a $5,000 shotgun setup, but they don't want to go buy it. It's like we go through it with rifles. They buy, a $3,000 rifle and then they put a $2 scope on it. Why is that?
It's education, and it's growing up a little bit and getting a little bit more seasoned and realizing where true value is. That's a lot of it, candidly, and we've gone out of our way to create a really nice line of products that range from $1 to $50 to $100 to $200 to $300, so that there's options, really nice, innovative, state-of-the-art options for anybody, any price range, any budget. So we've got that covered. If you want less expensive electronic hearing enhancement protection with audio, we have really nice products that do a fantastic job for you on that. If you get to a situation where you're more in a professional realm or you've lost your hearing, then that's when you step up to our top of the line range on it. And when I say top of the line, like our top of the line products that we sell the most of range between about $2,000 up to $2,800. Or those are really the two main price points that we sell the most of. But what we're doing for those prices, if you were to go into a traditional clinic, you wouldn't get half the features out of it. It wouldn't be sexy. It'd be old man territory, old man. Right? Old grandpa, grandma territory. Wouldn't have half the features to it, have half the coolness to it, and you'd be spending about $7,000 to $12,000 and we would still outperform that. I have some of the wealthiest people in this country and the state where I live, come into me every year, and they could care less about the money side of it. And, they've been in there and they spent $8,000 to $12,000, sometimes as high as $16,000 for state-of-the-art hearing aids. And the places where they went couldn't get them to fit right, couldn't get it to sound right, couldn't get it to work right. We go in there and we fit them a pair of our top of the line for $2,800, and they are hearing better, more comfortably, and have more features that match their lifestyle for $2,800 compared to what's happening for $7,000 to $12,000.
Let me ask a question I'm curious about. What do you say to people that say, I have a suppressor, I don't need hearing protection?
Go shoot your suppressor again with a decibel meter, and you'll see just how loud most of that is. Yeah. Anytime you get into it, the other side of it too is you get into a suppressor, how many suppressors do you got to buy? How many guns do you have? If you only got one gun, then you're in business, and that's an easy way to go. But if you got 10, 15, 20, 50, 100, 200 guns, suppressor is kind of an obnoxious way to have to deal with it.
Right.
I have suppressors also. I love my suppressors, but that doesn't replace the need for hearing protection, and it doesn't replace the need to be able to hear better. And so, the best thing is go out there and get the suppressors for the guns that you want it on, but get yourself a good pair of ears to go along with it. And take a decibel meter. Don't take my word for it. Go get a decibel meter and go out there and see just how loud those guns are, even with suppressors on it. And you'll be convinced very, very quickly that you want you want your ears in. And like everybody sees hearing protection, but again, we do a lot to help people hear better. I don't really refer to us as a hearing protection company as much as I do just get your ears on, right? Like you got so much more going on with your hearing than just protection. Get your ears on so that you can hear what's going on. You got the hearing, you got the protection, you got the audio, you just got your ears on in all the capacity that you need your ears for.
This is one too. I think it's maybe racing. What's the worst, most detrimental sport or environment for your ears? I'm curious. You got to know. Right?
NHRA and tractor pulls.
NHRA. I haven't been to a tractor pull, Aaron. Have you been to a tractor pull?
I've been to one. Yeah, I've been to a few actually.
Is it loud?
Yeah, they're loud.
Yeah, dude. You go down to NASCAR.
Yeah, NASCAR's the same way. I've
Yeah,
been
but
to Indy race.
NHRA, you go down to NASCAR and I never get headaches, right? I go into a NASCAR race and within 5 to 10 minutes in that stadium, I've got a massive headache, and it's all from my hearing.
Yeah.
It's all because it's tearing my hearing apart.
Well, like Top Fuel drag racers, same thing.
Yeah.
It's just so much. There's just so much coming out.
And NASCAR's nothing compared to NHRA.
Yeah.
That's so much louder than what NASCAR is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. And those tractor pulls are insane.
Yep.
And you look around the audience, and here's a guy, I'm pretty healthy, pretty fit, never get headaches. I go in there in 5 to 10 minutes, I got a massive headache. I put my ears in, and that headache immediately goes away, and I'm back, and I'm comfortable. I can talk with whoever I'm there with, whatever's going on. I can communicate, I can get along, I can enjoy it because I don't have a massive headache going on the whole time, right?
Well, I've even had instances, I've been to an AC/DC concert, and I wasn't close to the stage, but just the way the sound that they had in the stadium was just enough to deafen me out.
Yeah.
And you're having musicians now, drummers saying, man, if I would have been smart, I would have had hearing protection. And now you're starting to see a lot more musicians on stage that have some sort of protection on. Do any of them come to you and ask for advice or consultations?
We've done a lot. We haven't gone out of our way to really focus on that crowd, but just by default through the pathways that we kind of hit in life, we run across different celebrity musician artists, so on. We come across people from all walks of life, which is a lot of the reason why we rebranded over to Axle, just to have a more universal message and brand out to everybody in all these environments, right? So you talk about the concerts, I took my two of my oldest sons and some of their friends.
You just tell me about it, yeah.
Right? Took them out on kind of a little road tour a year ago. The first stop was Pasadena, California, Rose Bowl for Metallica, and second one was Guns N' Roses reunion tour, right? And I remember, back in my teenage years, in my 20s, I thought distortion was killer and nothing sounded good unless it had massive distortion.
Right.
And once you got hearing loss and you cross 40, that's not the same anymore, and distortion sucks, right? So I take my custom product or custom ears, whatever it was I had, and I'd get down to those concerts and I'd just reach up and pop those in my ears and made the music sound better, took that distortion out, didn't kill my ears anymore, and I could sit there and enjoy the concert and enjoy the music. Yeah. These are freaking awesome in concert settings, especially rock concert settings where you get so much loud sound and so much distortion going on from that all the time. I mean, that's the thing that I love about this product. That's why I wanted to go and push the rebrand for Axel, is because there's so many more applications to this than just hunting and shooting. Right, and what you'll see come out from Axel is us getting around and really starting to tell the story, like, of all this crazy ass wild stuff that American guys and gals get into, and how loud and how noisy it is, and just start telling that story and amplifying that story so that people know, like, here's all this stuff we get into, and by the way, here's how you take care of your ears in relation to all this stuff. Because on a point that you made earlier, John, what would we tell people, and people take it for granted, and what do you do with it? Well, now we're far enough along, we're smart enough, we're educated enough now that we know noise-induced, just remember this term, noise-induced hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss, that's what happens when you get too many loud noises pummeling your ears and you get hearing loss from it, right? That's called noise-induced hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss is 100% preventable, right? 100%. You get good hearing protection in, you get good ears in, you get going on it. You never have to deal with hearing loss that came from loud noises on it. Now, if you get it through the normal aging process, well, congratulations, welcome to life, right? That's the way it goes. But for all the other stuff of what we cause on our own, if you jump on this soon enough, early enough, you can avoid that altogether, and you can put off wearing hearing aids and all that stuff for another 20, 25, 30 years, if you take really good care of it. And the other thing about hearing loss people don't get is, like, once it's gone, it's gone. You do not get it back ever. You never get it back. And it's like once you get hearing loss and people start talking to you, it's like hearing people talk with a mouth full of marbles all the time. There's no clarity, there's no definition to it. It's just like mumble, garble, no clarity, no harmony, no definition, no treble, no high tones, and it's just like listening to people talk with a mouthful of marbles. And the only way you fix that is with hearing aids, and as good as hearing aids are in today's world, they are nothing compared to your own natural hearing, right? You got on a piano, right? People don't realize this, but on a piano, you got 88 strings on a piano. And from that, you can make phenomenal music, endless phenomenal variations of music, right? But inside of your ears, you got 45,000 strings on a piano on your left ear, and you got 45,000 strings on a piano on your right ear. You got 90,000 strings on a piano down inside of your inner ears. That's what the sound goes in. It triggers those little hair cells in all the different low to mid-range to high tones. I mean, the human ear has got the most advanced sound system on the planet, but once it's damaged, that's it. Then you're dealing with that forever. So take care of it.
Mind blown. Blown.
Right here in Kalispell.
Yeah.
On a Friday night.
It's insane.
This is almost too surreal for a Friday.
Yeah. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So we had Colby on earlier.
Yeah.
And he's one of your sponsored guys. He's out there, a young guy on the circuit. It's got to be nice to have a young guy taking his hearing protection seriously. I know there's probably a lot of young folks out there shooting or getting into shooting or going to concerts or doing all this stuff. Should they all be really looking at higher end hearing protection at a young age, or can they start out with something lesser, or is anything a good thing? Where does it start with that?
Anything's a good thing, but gosh, some of our products on the Go Strike line, those range from $139 up to $399. Most anybody who cares enough about it could work that out, and they're great products, and they'll do a great job. Most parents, most grandparents, when they know that they got a child and or son or daughter out there in the mix of all of those things, would gladly give that to them for a Christmas present or a birthday present or just a here you go live present. Take care of your ears. So yeah, there's way too many options. Like we're talking about before. I mean, when I'm doing that stuff back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, there just wasn't a lot of awareness or education or options or products or things out there that really were cool or that really made sense or that you even really knew that much about, and they just weren't that mainstream. But now that's not the case. Now there's tons of awareness around this. There can always be more, and we're making good strides on that. But there's tons of great options out there. I mean, there's no excuse whatsoever to have noise-induced hearing loss going forward, other than you just forgot or you just never made it a priority.
So I want to ask the million-dollar question. You're in the firearms business. You're at the shows. You're at the events. You're there. We were talking about it in the other room a little bit. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the firearms business now that you're in it and you're entrenched in it? I mean, we grow up having a love for dove hunting or whatever it is. But now that you're at the show level and you do the people watch and you listen to the spiel, I mean, it's safe to say, we were talking about this earlier, it's one of the most juvenile industries in many ways. But what do you think of it as a whole? It's a great community, there's no doubt.
Yeah, it's a great community, and no matter how big it is, it's amazing how small-knit the industry is, how close-knit it is. It's always been pretty amazing, pretty impressive to me, and I love being in the industry. The thing that was cool for me is growing up and seeing all of these super iconic gun brands, out there, and then just figuring out how to cross, the other side of my family kind of legacy over and marry those two things together, So that's been super cool, and I've met a lot of, a lot of the favorite people I know in my life I've met in this industry. Just a ton of really good people in here. If we talk about kind of the juvenile side of it, more than anything, I would look at it and say, on that note, like what we were talking about earlier, like there's so much more that this industry can do by, just by taking a step forward in professionalism on, branding, marketing, messaging, just coming up to a lot of modern methods that are out there to help tell the story out there, to get out there. And there's a lot of people who do a good job on this, right? So I'm not talking about everybody, obviously, but, there's kind of a whole of it that to get out there and really raise this farther and take it farther, it's like you've got this cloud that, in the atmosphere that kind of exists over guns, generally. And so it's like it kind of keeps this container, this lid on talent, just taking what we have and blowing it out there. But we got the greatest industry in the world. You sit and look around. I mean, most guys would, love to be doing what we're doing in this industry and being able to be involved in the
I definitely agree with that. Yeah,
stuff, right?
There's a lot of pinch yourself moments, and I know Aaron's been through it. There's a lot of like, geez, I get paid to work in this business, and that's fucking awesome, whether it's to shoot, whether it's to Cerakote, whether it's to participate. And when you go to the shows, you meet so many iconic people, and because of the tight nature of our businesses and everything that we do, we're kind of hamstrung a little bit in how we can market and how we can push our message out there and how we but there's still that human interaction that you get through the shows, and you get to meet the people. And I will say, by and large, the firearms industry has a lot of great folks that are more than willing to help you navigate the waters, meet people, generate business. You're always going to have in any line of work that juvenile side.
Sure.
But for the most part, if your product's great, you have a great message, you have good leadership, and you guys get out there, and I see your team out there, they're squared away, the booth looks great, the message looks good, you have that full product line like we're talking about, and it's always busy. One thing about your booth, it's always busy. And I think a lot of that stems from, once you think of the gun and the optic, you think of the ears and eyes. And, then it gets into the tactile side of it, pouches and bags and stuff like that.
All the other accessories.
Yeah, all the other accessories.
Yeah.
So it is a fun business, and you do have to pinch yourself from time to time. But I've been a big proponent of your product and used your product for a lot of years. I just think, it goes without saying, you have to make sure you sift through all aspects of this business when you're choosing who you work with, and you guys are great guys and do an awesome job getting your message out there and being true to who you are. And you really, out of all the brands I've worked with through the years, your attention to what goes on in your company and what goes on in your product, and you're so passionate about a topic that most people, like we said, it's not sexy. Most people aren't passionate about it. It bleeds through. And when I'm in your booth, I kind of see that. Like, you could spend an hour talking about piano wires in an ear, and that's what you want in someone that's doing that.
And what's funny about that too is how people get how excited people get after a conversation around that. And when they never thought that before, they thought it was boring. They thought it was this.
I'll just
they
buy
never even
phones.
thought about it, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And people always say, do whatever you're passionate about, right? I always change that around and say, what? Be passionate about whatever you do. I don't care if I'm a janitor. I don't care if I'm cleaning toilets or helping people hear better or doing anything else. I'm going to be the most passionate guy on the planet about whatever it is that I do, man, because that's the pathway forward, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever's going on, especially when it's stuff that's helping people like this, I get to go out there and extend people's hunting and shooting career by another 20 to 30 years. That's boring to me? Hell no, it's not. That's freaking awesome.
Amen.
Man, I love that stuff. And you mentioned a couple things I'll hit on real quick, but our team, we have a phenomenal team. We have a really good team, and we're known. We have a good reputation for our professionalism when we get out there. We've really gone to use the most cutting-edge technology in the world and bring that to the outdoorsmen, sportsmen. And we're the only ones who have done that. There's nobody else out there who's taken it to the level that we have. And we're proud to say that can be the case, and we're passionate about it, and we're totally dedicated to it, and we are totally committed to delivering the very best for people's hearing that we can, But now to another side about the industry, you say that we get kind of choked up and bottlenecked on how we can get out there and promote and stuff. And that's my question to the industry is really like who the hell is putting that cap on us? And why in the world do we allow that to happen? Yeah, you have certain things on Google, you have certain things on Facebook that do that, but why in the world are we ever letting ourselves as an industry, best industry on the planet as far as I'm concerned, why in the world are we letting other people out there who, just because they have different thoughts around this whole arena, why in the world would we ever let them pigeonhole us or corner us into what's going on? Like, why don't we step out there and become more aggressive, more assertive, more loud of this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is what we're all about, this is why it matters. Here we are in an industry being pigeonholed when in reality, our whole industry is based around what? The Second Amendment? The second? Not the 13th, not the 20th, not the 50th, right? The second principle that they built this country on, and we're withdrawing from standing up there and taking that. Yeah, that's insanity. That's entirely a fault on our part. That's not the people who would pigeonhole us. They have nothing to do with that. That's entirely us allowing that to happen to us.
This is deep, Jason, for a Friday.
Yeah.
Good thing I had a bang.
You asked me what I thought. There it is.
It's a rant.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? Here's what I am dying to ask you. And first of all, I appreciate you coming up.
No, thanks.
And it's always nice to talk across from people who are in business, right? Who signed both sides of the check?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, you know. How do you talk to your employees about your struggles? First of all, no one gives a shit about the CEO or the owner, really.
Yeah.
They don't care about the time you put in, the money you spend.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, I didn't see this one coming. You're
This
asking
is
another
good, right?
loaded question.
Right? They just don't. And you know
Yeah.
what? I mean, it sucks because everyone has their own thoughts on a business and the money that's being made and how it's being told out. And
Yeah.
I'm interested in hearing your take on that as a business owner.
Oh my gosh, how long do you want me to
I
take
need
on
another
that
bang.
one?
I'll give you 1 minute.
All right.
Because we could talk. That could be a whole show.
All right, I'll answer that. I'll answer that real quick. And this isn't to be offensive to employees, you know, especially mine. My gosh, I never take it lightly that people would come over and take the risk of helping me build my vision. I never ever. There's not a second of a day I take that for granted, right? I love my people a ton, more than I could ever tell them. You know, they might even be surprised if they heard me say this, but I think most of my people know that I appreciate them a ton. But I don't talk to them about it, right? I learned probably, I said I've been doing this 23 years. I learned about 10 years ago that, you know, I have certain responsibilities as a founder and a CEO. And those are my responsibilities to bear. They're not their responsibilities to bear. They don't get paid enough. They don't get the reward enough. They don't have the, I have committed employees, so I don't say this lightly, but they don't have the same commitment to it that I do, nor could they, should they, right? So I don't say that as a negative. I just say that as, that's the way it is. And so I just realized those are mine to share or mine to burden. So I find a couple key people outside of my work that I can talk to and kind of go through my therapy sessions, right?
You know,
accordingly.
Right.
And that's been powerful.
It has. And you know what? That's well said, because it can be lonely
Yeah.
at the top.
Yeah.
And I say that because of what you just said.
Yeah.
You know, they come in here, they work hard. Sometimes I don't sleep just because I see how hard they work, and I wish the business could accelerate to a point where here's your
absolutely.
reward, here's all
Yeah.
your benefits, here's everything. And unfortunately, sometimes it never works out.
Yeah.
It never goes fast enough.
Yeah,
I don't know if
and
that's by
employees
design.
don't see, you know, they don't always see the financials and they don't see what's going on. And I mean, I've had employees over the years who think that, you know, we sell $10 million worth of product and $10 million just went in my pocket, right?
Right.
I mean, I have people who literally think that, and they don't calculate the rent, the staff, and the payroll, and the risks that you go to take on the payroll, and the advertising, the marketing, whether it works or not, and all the things to pull product together and R&D together. And they don't see all that, and they don't see how much of a talent and hard work and art that it is to maintain a profit at the end of the day, right? They don't see that. And they just think, oh my gosh, you know, this guy's putting, you know, a
Well, you
gazillion
flew up here
dollars
in
in
your
his
private
pocket.
jet, didn't you?
Exactly
You
right.
did. Right? Did you have to
That's
pick him up at the
right.
airport?
No, he had a driver waiting.
Get a
for him.
limousine?
Yeah,
One was
limo.
picking him up?
But I went to another thing a couple months ago. I was down at a small conference, only about 50 people in there, and Robert Herjavec from the Shark Tank was one of the speakers down there. And you don't see this on the Shark Tank, but he's incredibly animated. In fact, the other three sharks in there refer to him as the Muppet, right? Because he's all over the place, bouncing off the walls, doing all this crazy stuff, right? And he got up and he talked about it, and he said, you know, I realized when I was young, I love this. Man, I love this because I realized the same thing in my 20s and have dealt with it accordingly since then. But he said, you know, I realized at an early age that, and in his words, you know, I'm quoting him, he just said, people just don't give a shit. If you're up for it for the day or you're not, you're in a good mood, you feel good, you don't, whatever your problems are, whatever's going on, they got so much stress and so much own stuff in their own lives that they're trying to figure out on their own that they just don't freaking care what it is. And that's up to you to step up every day and get yourself dialed in every day and go out there and be the nicest, funnest, most passionate, animated, person that you can be, because then people like to deal with you. And if you come in and all you're doing is dragging your bag of crap with you all the time, then guess what? Nobody wants to come back and deal with you again. And it's not that people don't care, it's just that they got their own life, their own stuff. And so that's our personal responsibility, right?
And you're right, and that's, for me, that's the hardest.
Yeah.
There's days where I just do not want to come in here. I know I'm not in a good mood.
Yeah.
And
it's a big
hard.
deal.
And I got to switch. I try my best to switch, to be the leader, to be respectful. Yeah. But you know what? That's, for me, I'm confident enough to know when I get here and what I do day to day, I'm good at.
Yeah.
Where my hardest challenge is preparing mentally for the problems, the chaos, the bad news, and then trying to find the solution in business.
Yeah.
That's what I struggle day to day for.
Yeah.
So. And
how long does it take you before you open the email in the morning because you're afraid of what bad news might be popping through there?
Right. Right.
That's the entrepreneurial burden and grind that you go through when you're figuring out how to get a business together the way that you want to, and
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I
don't think it's easy for anybody.
No, I think we touched on it a little with Colby. I think the most important thing you can do is day in and day out, you have to hit the reset button.
Yeah.
Colby hits the reset button every year. That's why he won 4 world championships. He hits the reset button. So you have to hit the reset button on your day, on your month, on your week, on your year. And when, given Jason, spends a lot of time in the gym, as do I, training, every day is hitting the reset button. Because you're going to wake up tomorrow at 4 and do it again. You're going to wake up the next day at 4 and do it again. You're going to wake up. And the mindset that you adopt through that is you have to reset it. And some days you just can't. It's like a tape player that just plays over, so you get in that bad mood or you get in that funk.
Yeah.
And you stay in it, and then, you need what I call sometimes like mental health day. A day where you just have zero contact with humanity and reset it.
Go blow shit up.
Go blow shit up.
In Nevada.
Whatever it is you do to hit the reset button, but you have to hit the reset button.
Yeah.
The most successful people I've come across, and I want to get your thoughts on this, it stems off Jason's question, they do a great job of not carrying an emotional, visceral reaction to things for an extended period of time. And sometimes you just got to let shit ride, and just get it done, whatever it is, the task. If it's to build a successful budget, if it's to build a successful brand, if it's to build a successful company, shit's going to happen along the way. Mm-hmm. It's how quick you process it, reset it, and just get back into it. And I want to get your thoughts on what your process is when shit goes to hell and how you handle it. Like, you use your outside forces, and I think we all have those. Jason has them, I have them.
Right.
But are you quick to hit the reset button? Do you go on a dove hunt? You go fly fishing?
Well, that's the thing that's cool, right? I mean, anytime you can get out there with, I always say, high octane fuel and ammunition, that's an easy way to blow off steam, right? Pull out the motorcycle or pull out guns or whatever, you can get out there and blow off some steam pretty good, pretty fast on stuff, But there's another couple things that my mind goes to as you guys are talking about this. Like, we live in a cool age right now where we have tons of information and tech and knowledge, right? And it comes in leaps and bounds to us every single day. Every single day we're making massive stuff or massive progress. And when we get into like the last 10 years, have been phenomenal for understanding brain science, right? And what we find out in brain science is that human nature is that we will go through and we will cling and hang on to the hard, troubling, traumatic experiences in life more so than we will to the good, enjoyable, fun side of life. And if you really stop and take a look back through the course of your life, most of the time you're going to realize that there was way more good that happened than there was problematic or traumatic or whatever it was that was going on, right?
Why is that?
But we just got programmed. It's just our mental brain science makeup that we hang on to the hard stuff more than we hang on to the good stuff. And so it's stopping and taking a minute, to retune your brain, to dial in your brain to start to recognize the highlights of every day, the highlights of every month, of every year, of the last 20, 30, 40 years of your life, however old you are, and start going back through and retracing and redialing your mind in to recognize the great things that have happened in your life and build on that and focus more on that and start to minimize that natural focus to the hard and the difficult, right? That's been a big deal. You also got, another thing I heard a few years ago that's helped me a lot. It helped after I started to discover it on my own, but David Rockefeller, one of the richest guys in oil, he talked about it years ago before he passed away. And he said about the time he hit 50, he talked about it and talked about, his belief in God during his life and all those things. He said about the time he got to 50, he realized that no matter what happened, no matter how good or bad the day was, the sun was going to shine again tomorrow. And it's like once he finally realized that and got that through his head, the last 40 plus years of his life were 1,000 times more peaceful because he realized, you know what, no matter what today is or isn't, things are still going to work out one way or another. I'm still going to move forward one way or another. I'm still going to figure something out one way or another. And after that, he went on to relax a ton more, create his greatest wealth, his greatest successes, his greatest masterpieces, because he finally just realized, I'm getting way too bent out of shape over today, when in reality I need to let it go and move forward and do the best I can today and go on and do better tomorrow and better the next day and so on. And that's life-changing when you really start to feel that shift inside of you, right? It's one thing to talk about it, but when you actually start to feel that shift inside of you, that's pretty game-changing, or has been for me.
I think part of the issue a lot of people have is not realizing that a lot of it could have been mitigated if they'd just taken the hard right versus the easy left, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a lot easier to do the wrong thing because it's like that shortcut.
Yeah.
They see that path and it's like right there, and instead of like looking way past like over the hill where the final objective is, they just take this path, and it's actually the worst path to take.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people get themselves into trouble. I found that out just in my short span on this nice blue ball, but I like to look at life in that instance as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Angry
Absolutely.
Aaron chiming in.
I'm not angry.
You're angry.
No. I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
From a combat veteran standpoint, a lot of vets have an issue with tinnitus. Of course, you know that it is ringing of the ears.
Yeah.
Is there any way that your product can help, or your company can help curb or kind of help with that process?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because a ton of people ask us about that. And so, excuse me, everybody says it tinnitus, but I just talked to my expertise, right? So keep calling it tinnitus because then people will know what you're talking about, right? But the medical way of it is tinnitus, and so that's what you'll hear me say because that's what I do.
I stand corrected, folks. I'm sorry.
No, don't correct yourself because nobody will know what you're talking about. Keep saying tinnitus because that's what everybody understands, right? But people don't realize usually you get that tinnitus and that ringing starting in your ears first. That's a sign of permanent hearing damage. And so the ringing starts first and then the hearing loss comes later. When you get that ringing, the hearing loss always comes later. A year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, it always comes. You get out there and you're shooting around a lot of loud sounds and your ears ring for a day or two or three afterwards, or your buddy takes a shot at geese or duck or shooting or whatever it is, or big game, whatever's going on, and your ears are ringing for 2 or 3 days and you're cursing them for 2 or 3 days after, that's permanent hearing damage. That's caused permanent hearing damage, right? And that's the way it goes. And so there's all the normal things that build into it: diet, stress. If you're eating way too much fast food and pop and garbage food, that's going to accelerate that more. If you're too much stress, not enough fitness, not enough activity in your life, that can accelerate it a little bit more. As far as products go, when you get to that point, when you put in some type of hearing device, that usually will give you a tiny bit of a super, super light on sound that you don't even notice is hardly there, but it's usually enough to mask that out. Or if you have full-blown hearing loss and you need help hearing better, then we go in and we put tinnitus masking technology inside of the device so that'll mask that out for people also, right? Or if it's you get it a little bit at the end of the day when you're going to sleep at night and it bugs you a little bit, go down and get yourself go to Amazon or wherever you shop and buy one of those clocks that will sit there and play a little bit of a ocean sound. That'll mask that out for you, and you'll go to sleep just fine and sleep all through the night just fine without it bothering you, right? So from in-ear products, there's things that we can do. From diet, stress, lifestyle, there's things that you can do. I've had a doctor in Salt Lake City who's kept it out of my left ear for the last 17 years. I started getting it when I was 29, but he literally is the only doctor on the planet that I know of who can do that. And I got to go in twice a year and get shots, on it. But he's kept it out of both of my ears for all that time on it. But he's got to get a hold of somebody in the first 6 months. And as it happened, I took over his clinic as he moved down the hall, and I moved into his clinic, when I was younger. And so he and I became good friends, and that was one of many benefits of that friendship, right? He's kept that out of my ears for a long time, but tinnitus sucks, but there are solutions for it. So give us a call. We can walk you through it, help you figure out whatever it is that's going on.
Cool.
So, believe it or not.
And keep saying tinnitus. Otherwise, nobody will know what you're talking about.
Believe it or not.
Especially John here.
Yeah. We have gone an hour. And if you asked me if we would go an hour talking about hearing protection, and it would be this fucking mind-blowing.
Informative, yeah.
My mind's blown. I learned more in this podcast than I did in the 30 fucking guests before.
Nice.
Be offended. I'm serious. What about you, Aaron? It's pretty we've had some mind-blowing segments.
Well, the funny thing is, like the older, like your grandparents or your father, your uncle is like, you need to make sure you take care of your hearing. Well, that's a simple message. This is more explicit and a lot more informative than what I've ever had in my entire life. And
well, this is cool. I'd lived a long time in my mind, 15, 20 years down the road, and waiting for technology to catch up with it. But it's cool, man. I mean, technology's caught up. We can do it in cool earbuds. We can do it in anything we want. There's no reason not to get that type of product and have fun with it and love it. Not have it be a must do, but have it be a cool piece of gear that you freaking love, and you won't go anywhere without it because you love using it and having it. I won't go anywhere without my ears. I got freaking ears all over the place because that's what I do, right? And
yeah.
Probably got
it's like us. We got guns all over the place.
Right? I don't have as many ears as I do guns still, but I got quite a bit of ears lying around.
Well,
as you can imagine,
we've covered a ton, and we've gone an hour. I'd love to have you back, and you're one of the few guests I say that to.
I appreciate it.
Having had worked for you through the years, you're hands down one of the smarter guys that I still to this day pick up the phone, and I know you've been on the other end of it, and I still get your advice on certain things.
Thank you.
And I'll pick your brain from time to time, and it'll be randomly out of the blue, and you'll be like, the fuck is he calling about now? But I've done it. We've had some talks, some chats through the years, even my decision to come up here.
Yeah.
In many ways. I remember calling you, and you were one of the few people like, what the fuck do I do? And you're like, get in the fucking car and go.
Yeah.
I remember.
Take the leap.
It was like you, Branch, a couple guys. I was like, fuck. So.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, the relationship's obviously been mutually appreciated and beneficial.
I don't know if I'm the same guy to come to for that advice, but it's been great. And I thank you. I know Jason did for coming out and spending some time. Yeah. You're extremely knowledgeable about a whole slew of topics that we've been getting into over the last 12 hours or so. We're going to go check out some guns in a minute. You've had the tour. You visited the place. What do you think of what we're doing here? And what do you think of Falkor in general and the podcast, the brand, now that you've visited and walked around?
Well, I've been here for the day, and so walking through it, I love it because in the manufacturing innovation side, I've literally walked, I've walked hundreds and hundreds of manufacturing facilities from Europe to Asia to the best country on the planet, America, right? And even a little bit more north and south of America that I've gone through. And couldn't be more impressed with how organized, how sharp, how dialed in Falkor Defense operates up here. And, you know, just walking out on the floor today and seeing how spotless and meticulous everything is organized, that's you get that in probably 1 to 2% of manufacturing operations that I go into. And you can tell a lot just right off the bat from people of the people first and foremost, you know, how the organization lays out second to that, and then the products that are coming out from that, you know, candidly are third to me, you know, although that's kind of the final result. But absolutely thrilled with it. And the only place I haven't been here yet today is the gun room, so I'm looking forward to seeing the vault after this is all over with.
Jason hasn't taken you there yet.
Not yet. Saving the best for last, right?
Yeah, we'll do that right after we wrap. Before I throw it to Aaron to close it out, where can people find you? Where can people contact Sporty or Axel? And where can everybody, what's the best way to reach out? Email, all of it?
So the best way to reach us, for starters, is just our website, which is goaxil.com. That's GOAXIL.com. I don't know our 800 number, but you can find it on our website. Our main office number is 801-566-0240. Email-wise, I'm trying to think. You know, I don't know any other email to give you but my own, so I'm going to give you my own, which I don't usually
That's dangerous.
Like this,
just hit contact us on the website.
Yeah, go through and,
hit the contact us tab.
Yeah, that's perfect. You got the number right up there, and you got the website up there.
Yeah, it's all
and
there.
And if you go to our contact page, that's perfect. Just hit that.
Yeah.
We really have an awesome team. Fantastic customer service. We've been known for quite a while. Our customer service really is, I'll never say perfect, but we're pretty darn good. I've got a pretty darn good team who's far more on top of the details than I am. So reach out to them and they'll help you with anything you need. If you need help with hearing or getting a hearing test or whatever questions you possibly have, call up and we'll get you in touch with one of our professional hearing specialists there, and they will walk through anything you need with you and get you the help. You know, we I'll mention this real quick, but we get out there and we do a lot with direct to consumer. We do a lot with agencies, a lot with industrial. We do a lot with federal agents. You know, if you're a federal agent out there and you have a group of people who need to get taken care of on this, most people don't realize, but Federal Blue Cross Blue Shield will help out with that.
Well, there you go.
And they will cover the cost of our high-end gear for you to get you taken care of. So if that's the case, reach out to us, let them know you heard this podcast, and we can set it up and fly somebody out to meet with you and your team of guys. We'll go around and meet with a group of federal agents all the time, you know, that's anywhere from 5 people to 200 people, and get them fit and taken care of, and their insurance will cover that. So if you fall into that category and know somebody who does, reach out to us and we will get you the help that you need.
Phenomenal. Well, we said it all.
That's it.
That's it. I'm going to send it over to Aaron to close it out. Appreciate having you, and let's go see the gun vault.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Wow, so we're going to close it up and just say, wow, what a inspirational and motivating and knowledgeable podcast that was with Weston Harris, and I'm blown away, as John has said multiple times. With that being said, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. We have Kinsey's Optics. Again, go to their website. It is their one-stop shop, and I'll repeatedly say that, so if you want to curse me for it, go for it. But they have scopes, reflex sights, lights, just about everything you need for your next build. 221B Tactical, they have what we consider some of the best kit. John just had some gloves up, and like he was trying to get away from
OJ gloves.
OJ gloves, like he used to call them. And Mark Bell Slingshot. Make sure you get onto their website. They have some really cool products for those that are avid lifters in the gym, especially if you want to go heavy. Bang Energy. John almost didn't have enough because his mind is so blown off this podcast, but I think he's having another one. Really? Put it down. Put it away. Let's see, Taurus. Make sure you check them out. Always a spectacular product to shoot. And last but not least, it is December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, 1941, day that will live in infamy. Those of you who don't know, check out some history. We always appreciate our veterans here and the history that's always involved. And with that being said, have a good weekend, and we'll catch you on the flip side.